There have been thousands of protests all across the country in the last few weeks because of the murder of George Floyd that was caught on videotape and shocked so many of us because we realized the reality of racism and police brutality. And I think all of us have begun to realize the need for a conversation about race and racism so that we can somehow make some progress in this area in our country. Our bishop has recommended a book for us to read. It is So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijeoma Oluo. And so I got the book and I'm going through it, and I thought I'd like to share it with you as I read through the book so that we might be able to have conversations about race and racism. Ijeoma Oluo is a black woman. Her mother was white and her father was black. So she grew up learning how to negotiate the line between black and white all her life. She's in her late 30s, I believe. She's been a writer all her life. She says that when she began to be a writer, she just wanted to be a success, and she worked really hard at that. But at some point, something began to shift, and she began to resist the narratives that she was supposed to be writing about. And she wanted to write something that was substantial and of value about race and racism. So she wrote this book. The reason she wrote the book was to help us have conversations. She admits that in our country, we don't have a lot of practice about talking about race and racism. And so that's the purpose of this book, to help people have conversations. So I invite you to join me as I read through this book. I'll do little short video clips of each chapter or a few chapters, maybe 3 or 4 minutes long, and we can kind of get introduced to these ideas and think about them. In the introduction, she talks about how race was originally designed as a way to justify slavery. You can't own another human being without somehow justifying that they're less than you are. And then after slavery was outlawed, after the Civil War, racism continued as a way to lock people of color into the lower economic strata in order to make white people feel better. And it continues to this day. In the first chapter, she asks the question, is it really about race? Some people would rather talk about class than race and say that, well, there's a lot of things that create inequality in our country, not just race. But she says that, we bring our whole selves to everything that we do. As white people, we bring our whiteness to everything we do. We don't think about it, we're not aware of it because it doesn't affect us. But for black people, they bring their blackness to everything they do. And they notice all these slights and humiliations and hurts that they get everywhere. So it's a reality for them. And we need to recognize that reality and be able to talk about it and have a conversation about it. So that's my first installment. And I hope you'll join me when I have another YouTube video, and we'll continue talking about this book, So You Want to Talk About Race. Thanks.